All right, almost there. Hang in there, hit that like. We'll be ready to go in just a minute. I'm trying to get the major in here if he's ready to go and he's around. Checking the background. He's going to be our first guest today, followed by Tara. Second hour. Give me a minute. Here,
outside. It's packed.
Question is, did my headphones charge like they were supposed to? Excellent. Maybe. Oh, I hear him in the background now.
I'm here.
There you go.
I had to go back to an earlier link.
Linkage and stuff. Yeah, that happens. I don't blame you. We always have the possibility of gremlins is a reality. Mm-hmm. All right. 3, 2, give me 1 second. And there, I'm now actually starting the show. Hi, everybody. Sorry about the delay. Just little technical issues and stuff behind the scenes. It's always something. It's okay. That's what makes it the morning show, man. We can glide into it. It's a Monday, previously known as the Comedian's Friday, or Saturday, depending on whether or not you did a show Sunday night or not. That's just my life. That's my life in a handbasket. Is that the way to put it? No, I don't think so. Hit that like right away so that people know we're here. That helps immensely. It is clearly showing in the numbers that strategy, which I came up with my goddamn self, actually works. It is, again, I have looked at the analytics and I am right as rain. And it's partly because I spend so much time watching right-wing lunatics on YouTube. I can tell when they go live and how long they've been live by the number of people watching them. Because they don't know this little trick that I invented. Thank you. Now, before I jump into my own morning diatribes, which I'm always wont to do, I want to welcome you, Major Richard. Yeah, there he is. Wait, hold on. Yeah, do we get you? There you go. Yeah. Excellent. No, I got you centered. You don't have to center yourself. I'll get you in there. There you go.
Okay.
Let's just say turnleftpact.org right out of the gate. And it's TURNLEFTPAC.org. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Good. Because of the PACT Act, some folks might occasionally think that pact, left pact, good guys, PACT Act. And there's a reason. I like that overlap. It's just it's important to clarify it. So turnleftpact.org. Check it out. Bookmark it. Get some killer merch, including a Jackaloon shirt, which I have on order myself. Nice. Today I'm wearing my Pentaveret shirt in honor of the conspiracy theories that are flying all over Iran, Israel, the Illuminati, Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, the Republican Party, and the fact that they obviously are working for the globalists because they're both trying to this is my favorite part, Richard, if I may. And thank you for joining us this morning. Give it up for him in the chat room. I insist. This is my favorite part currently. If you're for the border bill, you're working for the globalist deep state Illuminati, whatchamacallit, whatever that they worry about. If you're fighting it, you're working for the globalist deep state Illuminati. It does not matter. There is a plurality, like 15% of Republican voters who, if you're for it, think you're on the take, and if you're against it, think you're on the take. And they're different groups of people who overlap on everything else. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely sad. And what bothers me is that, I keep seeing people, these states talk about we're sending our National Guard down.
No, right.
We support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And
right.
If you're traveling down to Texas right now on your own because you think you're going to go down there and you're going to fight somebody, you are the domestic. You are the domestic.
Right. I got to say, they are not fighting, insofar as I've seen, they are not fighting to protect, secure, defend the border at all. They are simply fighting for the right to use razor wire. That's it. Because every other thing, there is not a single fucking thing that they've run up against in any of this process. And here's the other thing too. Oddly enough, if the razor wire was on top of the wall which requires staffing and actual coding and specific work to be done and actually orchestrating some help with the federal government or something. If you just wove it inside the slat fence near the top, technically speaking, you wouldn't have most of these problems. The reality is that Texas is only in this deep shit because they're trying to put it along the shore where a good portion of children and women and people are coming across that may be seeking asylum, but might drown while they're running for their lives and trying to seek asylum in the United States. And it's literally all they're fighting for is the right to lazily throw down razor wire in front of Trump's shitty wall. Here's the other thing. If the wall is so fucking great, my friend, why do you need razor wire?
Yeah.
It stuns me. Apparently, they think it's a piece of shit. And we might be in agreement on that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, everybody knows that as soon as they started putting up that wall, like 2 days later, there was a couple Mexican guys that showed us how easy it was to climb over it. And once again, if you can't climb over it, well, we're talking about, if you're talking about cartels, these are the kind of people that literally carve a tunnel underneath the border and drive cars from point A to point B.
That's right. Did we learn nothing from the final Rambo movie?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. He literally addresses that. He drives. That's so funny. All this shit about how, like, because I love me some John Wick. I'm a big fan of Rambo. I like those kind of movies. I watch every single one of them when they come out. I've seen every Rocky movie except 5 because I was warned off, and I'm glad it didn't screw with my canon. But that said, these motherfuckers love this shit. They eat it up. But if you look at the lesson, first of all, my favorite is Rambo 3 because it credits the valiant people of Afghanistan, which is fucking hilarious in post whatever, and certainly in the modern MAGA world. And secondly, in the most recent one, his stepdaughter, or this woman that he's kind of got a relationship with, she's got a kid. They're not quite clear on what that relationship is. Is fucking around with the wrong people, gets abducted and taken to Mexico. And he drives across the border. Just drives. He just goes from where he is in Bowie, Arizona. He just drives. There's no wall. There's no nothing. Never was. Never will be. He just fucking off-roads it. And at one point, there's this area where, like, he passes where the Sicario or whatever the fuck run people under the border. And there's, like, this little thing. And he gets in a, like, dust-up fight on the way in, I think it is, with them. It's all dust and gunfire and sadness. But he goes and he gets her and he brings her back. And also crosses the border this way with no problem whatsoever. And yes, he's Rambo, so he knows how to do that shit. But at the same time, so do they. Like, by the hundreds. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
And the access road that was built, it was bulldozed so that they could make the wall on the Mexican side of the border is what makes it possible to cross the border. We'll talk about Evergrande in a second. DB Golding in the chat is asking about Evergrande in China. That's a story. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if not for that access road, most of the people who are trying to cross couldn't go as far as they go along the wall to the area where it hits private land or native reservations and just walk around it. That's what they do. They just walk around because you can't build it on Indian land. You can't build it on private property without, eminent domain or the right to do it. And Trump did neither. It just stops. So, again, these guys aren't fighting, I guess. Where's their razor wire around the Navajo reservation, I guess, is the other question. Or the private ranchers that use undocumented labor all the fucking time who refuse to have a wall built on their land.
This is straight up racism as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
Sure.
This is basically, hey, what about a wall to the north?
Right.
They don't
People
talk
overstaying
about
their
that,
visas.
And then, of course, we also know that like 90% of the fentanyl that's brought into this country comes in through like airports and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not the
Seaports.
southern border.
Yeah, it comes in seaports. Long Beach is one of the worst places for it. And it's big. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just another opportunity where people who hate, Hispanic, Mexican people like that can show their outrage of
Right.
this garbage, which is
Well,
absolute bullshit.
they had there's like this, I don't know why, but the right wing love their face tattoo rap videos lately. I don't know if you've
Good
noticed it.
Lord.
Yeah, isn't it
Good
so
Lord.
fucking weird? Isn't it so fucking weird? But they have, they got the guy who's supposedly like Donald Trump's illegitimate son as a joke, but maybe not. But what? It's very odd. That dude who did the MTG video and that dude. But they also did a Latinos for Trump, these two guys, and they're grilled out and they've got dreads and face tattoos and all this shit. That people who would be persona non fucking grata in any like Republican gathering unless they were wearing a Trump shirt and they're like, look who we can parade around. Yeah. But literally these Latinos for Trump, like who were posted this rap video. I'm like, dude, you do realize they're not going to be checking IDs or citizenship or papers when they start this big fucking roundup he's talking about. They're going to walk around with a swatch of paint swatch from Home Depot for eggshell. And if you're darker than that swatch, you can argue your case why you're an American from the Mexico side of the border.
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I mean, it's really sickening. But here's the thing. Is that they're doing exactly what Donald Trump did. They're preying on the poorly educated. And for some odd reason, these poorly educated people, especially where I come from in southern West Virginia, now all of a sudden they'll listen to some rap music as long as it's daggone talking about how awesome Donald Trump is.
Right, right.
And that's the thing is that these people that are sitting here, I know exactly what you're talking about, Latinos for Trump. Two friggin' jackaloons that's got very little talent. You got the other guy that's got all the tattoos on his face, hey, nice tattoo on your face. Said nobody friggin' ever,
Right. Yeah. The only person they've ever said that to was, I would say Mike Tyson, and it was just for safety reasons.
Yeah. It was just
no, man. It looks great. It looks totally good. Let's get the fuck out of here before I accidentally get my head caved in.
But I hate to say it, but wouldn't it be funny? Wouldn't it be funny to actually look and see them going, but wait, as they're being drug away and told you're going back to Mexico?
First, dude, here's the interesting thing. One of them, I'm pretty sure, has a previous drug, whether he's presently breaking the law, no one knows, no one says, but a previous conviction for drug sales. Under Trump, he would have been executed. Just with a quick trial, right? They will never see it coming. They will. I mean, it is like guys like just crawling into a grave and filling the dirt in themselves. Like I got it. Just using a fucking shovel to just do this. It is amazing to me. I mean, we know that, and it's interesting because like the Latinos for Trump account and all that kind of stuff. And again, no racial group is a monolith. People can be for conservatism or liberal ideas. Knock yourself the fuck out. The irony is that by being for Trump, you're for none of those things. He's not even interested in democracy at all. So if you think you'll be safe from his changes, it's just weird. And it might just be that these are the kind of folks who are like, as long as I'm on the top of the pile, I don't care how small that pile is. As long as I'm above those below me. And there's always been people like that in every group, in every situation like this in the world. There were Jewish capos in Auschwitz who muscled up to the, they fought their own people and sucked up to the guards so that they could survive, in some of the cruelest fashion. It happens. That said, so I wouldn't compare it to real conservative Latinos versus liberal Latinos or what have you. But the Blacks for Trump guy, we know is just a fucking lunatic. He's that guy. It isn't even about black people who support conservatives or even black people who support, Trump. This guy thinks that real American black people were here before anyone, and that Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey and Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman are all a mix of Cherokee and East Indian from India people who are posing as black people to steal their rights. It is just there's no landing pad at all. It's one of those things where it's so fucking crazy. It's always a balloon. You always have to stare up at it. Like, I don't know, that's never going to land.
But think about that though. Yeah. Here you got these two jackaloons, Latinos for Trump. I mean, here you are, and you're doing all this Trump stuff to basically show Donald Trump that you're like more than happy to stick your lips all over his friggin' starfish. But when they get rid of when Donald Trump gets rid of all the people that he hates, but he saves you two jackaloons. Understand that you're going to be the only two left. Yeah. We're talking about a man who literally banned a religion. Donald Trump put a Muslim ban. Right. We're talking about a person here. Not only is he not smart, but he is absolutely racist as shit. And he doesn't give a shit. And these people that are standing up and letting him take photographs, I don't give a shit. Bootlickers. Yes, right. Is who they are. I don't know. Tim Scott. Oh my God. Lord. Good Lord. What a bootlicker.
Oh God. And by the way, running interference when Trump ate shit and had a grandpa moment, and then he jumps up and he's like, I love Donald Trump. Like he just bat that shit up. And by the way, congratulations to him. He is marrying his girlfriend we never saw until we saw her, and then she's his wife, but we'll never see. Fascinating. It's like the Lindsey Graham wing is growing by the day, it seems. That said, there's some big news stories in the international front, and a lot of it has to do with military stuff. And I would love to ask your take on certain things, especially the attack in Jordan, and then of course the news that the U.S. and 7 other countries are pausing funding for Unwra because it turns out that at least 12 people who work for Unwra in administrative positions participated in October 7th, were active, violent members of the attack on Israelis and foreign nationals. And, one of them even was responsible for removing the dead body of a soldier and taking it back to Gaza to be desecrated. There were 3,000 teachers in an Unwra Telegram channel that worked for Unwra inside the West Bank and Gaza who celebrated the attack on October 7th. They have been, there have been warnings about them for years, teaching kids that, the best thing they can do is be a martyr and die killing Jews. And the kids in the Unwra schools, a lot of them wear, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage, but they wear little medals around their neck with the faces of guys who they consider martyrs. But, a couple of which, one of them organized an attack on a car drive-by that killed a woman and her 2 15-year-old daughters. And we're not talking about people who took out soldiers or blew up a checkpoint or something that could even be marginally presented as military action. They just gunned down 2 15-year-olds and their mother, and these kids wear this around their neck, and they're told by their UN teacher that person is a hero for that act. You know what I mean? It's like if our kids over here only wore, was it Bravo Company from Vietnam and shots from Abu Ghraib and went, this is how you fight a war. We would flip the fuck out. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, your thoughts on the Jordan first? We've lost 3 soldiers in this drone attack.
Well, I spent a little bit of time in Jordan. I was on one of the military bases in a place called Zarqa, which was actually the hometown of Zarqawi. Sure. But I will tell you that I've been with Jordanians on a few occasions, and they know how to fight. Their king is actually a real true blue leader. Like when they start dropping bombs, he's probably in the lead aircraft dropping these bombs. He is a real leader. And the people of Jordan love this man. I mean, if you want to get into a major brawl with anybody, say something negative about the king. They love him, but they love him because he is a wonderful leader that takes care of them. Gotcha. I would tell you that there's going to be a lot more coming from this. Not only us, because once again, you killed 3 Americans and you wounded 25 others. So there is going to be some hell to pay, and it's going to happen to not Israel, but it's going to happen to Iran. And they're not going to like it, and there's not a damn thing that they're going to be able to do about it. But you want to play these kind of games. You know, if you want to get involved and you want to start, striking, it's going to come back on you.
Curiously enough, most of the time, Iran just ignores the strikes, doesn't say we had nothing to do with it. They usually just stay quiet with the assumption that they backed it, and then the smaller group takes credit for it. They have specifically tried to distance themselves from it. And it seems that whether it's Sinwar or the leftover guys from Qasem Soleimani's group that want direct, more bloody revenge, and they have an Illuminati view of the world as well, that Israel and the United States run everything, and so everything pivots through there. I mean, these are the guys who think that if there's a drought, the Jews made it happen. Like they stared at the clouds or shot a Jewish laser beam at it, and that made it impossible for them to grow crops. They're these kind of folks. And those, interestingly enough, they're the ones who sort of coordinate all this. Qasem Soleimani is the guy who put all these different groups, the Hezbollah and Islamic State and Hamas, and said, okay, eventually we're going to do, if the countries won't do it, we're going to have another bite at the apple. That basically the war of, 1948, we're going to redo that without the permission of our host country. That seems to be what his plan was. And the only upside I can see is that it isn't as coordinated as they would like it to be. That they expected, like, okay, once Hamas goes, then these guys will go, and then this guy, and then this will happen. And it's been very sporadic. And either their communications are fucked up, or not everybody's all in, or whatever. But the Houthis were the first one. Like, Hezbollah bombed a couple of sites, but then backed off. The Houthis probably were the most consistent, although because they don't give a rat fuck about the Palestinians, they're doing this because they want the northern part of Yemen to basically get a piece of all the travel like the Suez Canal does, because Egypt is kept afloat by the Suez Canal. And they're like, well, how about you need a tax to go around the bend down here by Yemen? We'll basically like the mob will just show up and go, you pay us and then your ship can pass. That's what it's what the Somalis were trying to do for a long time. And we in the UK stopped them on behalf of everybody else. Right. So, I think that's what we're seeing is this sort of like poorly planned mini, like, I don't know, like their own version of Jan 6, like this shitty, poorly coordinated attack on normalcy.
But isn't that how it's always? It's like it's like they blow their load, on their first major assault. Yes. And then after that, it's chaos, and you may see some sporadic stuff, but there's sporadic stuff happening in that part of the world all of the time.
Right.
I mean, it's always chaotic. It's always rough in those.
Well, you think that's why they have a hard time getting traction with a lot of their shit? Because you and I both know, like, look at the U.S. reaction to 9/11. On the one hand, we completely overreacted. George W. Bush taking us into Iraq for want of fucking nothing and just ridiculous. But on the other hand, our overreaction in that, the less it seems in many ways, and maybe we sort of overlearned it in some cases, what we learned was tap the fucking brakes when this shit happens and don't let yourself be baited into something dumb. And like I said, we were reticent to do it before 9/11. That's why we missed the boat on Rwanda. And that's why, Clinton says that was the biggest regret of his presidency, was that they didn't do more at that time. It's what drove us to act in Bosnia-Herzegovina, because we let sort of what happened in Rwanda go by, and we're like, we can't let another slaughter go by if we can do something about it, that kind of stuff. But post 9/11, people are like, you know what? Fuck it. We're out a little bit. And even with Israel, we're giving them Iron Dome stuff, and we're flooding money into it. We give an equal amount of money to Israel for Iron Dome that we give in aid to Gaza, the United States. We have for fucking over half a decade.
Yeah.
Or a little more than a decade and a half. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand, they're like, why are we giving anybody anything? Because we literally stabilize parts of the globe.
Right.
Because we basically, give money to these organizations. And we give money to North Korea. I mean, there's a big reason, it's like $3 billion a year we give to North Korea. And the reason for that is because we know that if we don't, and we know that he takes a lot of it and uses it for his own, means and military, but it's about trying to just, we know that people are dying of starvation.
Yeah, it's a weird mix, and and that's the leverage that Unwra used for a lot of people and still have. Now, for those that don't know, they I think it's the FCR, I forget what it is, but ACR is the UN Human Rights Campaign for Refugees or whatever. Is the main? There's a main organization that the UN does that handles refugees everywhere in the world.
Okay.
Right? They except Gaza and the West Bank. Unwra only handles Palestinian refugee camps. That's their whole mandate. They don't do anything else. All the rest of the refugees in the world, the ones that are in Pakistan on the other side of the border from Afghanistan that are either being forced back or want to go back to Afghanistan, maybe the ones that fled to Iran, the same deal. The United States through the United Nations puts money into the refugee program of the UN for people everywhere, for fucking people fleeing Argentina and like anywhere in the world there's a refugee camp. HCR, thank you, Salt and Grease. Yeah, the UNHCR handles everybody, but the Palestinians have their own group. Unwra only handles Palestinians. They don't do anything else, even though they're called the Relief and Works Agency. They're literally only for Palestinians.
Where do they get their funding? Do you know where they get most of their funding from?
The majority of it comes from the United States and the UK. We are the two biggest donors. There's 67 member states and NGOs that give money to it. It's got the Unwra by itself gets $1.8 billion a year, or did, and has year after year after year after year after year. And it's always been a weird thing that Unwra is separate from the rules of the HCR. It does not have to behave the same way. It has a separate mandate that expands the definition of refugee. Every other human rights, refugee situation tries to lower the number of refugees. Unwra actually expands that number to anybody sort of with the right of return thing that they've basically. They'll go and seek people with, a single drop of Palestinian ancestry and go, you have the right to come back and do that kind of thing. It's a way of sort of countering Jewish right to return. That's what it became, which is really fucked up that the UN would coordinate that. It's one thing if Hamas does it, or the Palestinian Authority, or the PLO, or whatever, but it's very odd that the UN would, through an organization. Now that their money, they just got cut off a couple days ago, and the United States, it was a big move because after one of the bombing attacks, there were a bunch of like Unwra people that were part of another attack about 6 years ago, and Trump cut the funding in half at one point, on reference to that kind of stuff. It wasn't. He kind of kept it on the down low. It's one of normally he would tout that kind of shit. But he just kind of, it went by under the radar. Biden got back in and restored the funding and removed the Houthis almost at the same time from the terror list, from being listed as terrorists, to try and stabilize and normalize. Like, hey, we'll give you a chance. Same thing we did with Iran, same thing with Russia and the fucking pipeline. Like, look, we'll just stabilize right now. We'll give you a chance to be your best self. None of them took it. Not a one.
Yeah.
But the Biden administration can say they straight up said, we tried. We treated everybody like they had a point, and we were there to listen. And what they said was they gave us a finger and started killing people. So fuck them. We gave them one last shot. We didn't just come in and, start brushing people aside like Trump at a fucking UN gathering. So, yeah.
I think that it's crazy when I don't understand how anybody would ever have the nerve to stand up to our military.
Right.
I mean, head to head, that's the worst mistake. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't realize this. I make jokes about it all the time. When I was in college, not college, but when I was teaching JROTC, had all these young kids, and they were all military, and the young boys are always acting as if they want to be snake eaters. They want to be rangers, and they want to be airborne Navy SEALs and all that stuff.
Testosterone's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. I mean, but I tell them all the time. I'm like, look, you don't have to be a snake eater, and if you are, and for the smart ones, I told them, I said, look, man, go talk to the Navy and the Air Force recruiter. Don't worry about the Army and the Marine guys. They'll always be there. But you should first try to go see what you can do with the Air Force and the Navy. And I'm going to tell you that, when every once in a while we get to see what our Air Force and our Navy does.
Yeah.
Desert Storm was 100 hours for a reason.
Right.
Because we schwacked everything that was still in Kuwait on its way out. And then we, up the highway of death. I mean, it brutal. But, you watch this and we know that, these people out there, they keep getting close to our boats and stuff, and they don't understand it's a wrap. The moment that we decide to use our might, we let the Navy do what the Navy does, man, you are screwed.
Well, that's what that seems to be what Iran is aware of. And there's again, the United States, and I think our Western allies as well, know that the Persian people, the Iranians, have not been too happy about being taken over by religious zealots and run that way for a very long time. And again, they were the most Western Middle Eastern country in that regard, as far as freedom for women and freedom for, just human rights in general. And the sort of Islamist stampede that turned back the clock about, 1,000 years, has been something they bristled against forever. And recently, especially because of, women who've been, beaten to death essentially for not wearing their hijab and that kind of stuff. The Iranians, the Houthis somehow, in their territories are all for that. That's a good sign. Child soldiers, child brides. It's that kind of place. But the Iranians, not so much. And as much as the leadership, if they had under them, if the Iranian leadership had under them people like the Houthis, high on that fucking, that chewing drug that they fucking gnaw on all the time. Yeah.
Cut.
Yeah. Cut. Yeah. Which in Thailand, they have a similar thing called bin lan, which is not as narcotic, but is a stimulant that they chew all the time. That truck drivers drive instead of instead of drinking coffee. If you go to Taiwan, there are these little booths by the side of the road that look like little phone booths, and they have a little green plus above them, like a pot dispensary. And in them will be a pretty girl in a short skirt, just sitting there all day long, taking this bin lan nut and rolling it up in one of the leaves and putting a little thread of the leaf around it to tie it in place, and putting them, beetle net, they also call it. That's right. And it's called bin lan. That's a Chinese name for it. And they'll put them in packs of 5 or whatever. And these guys will pull over in their trucks, and there's no difference bin lan to bin lan. It's all the same shit. So the only thing that will draw you to one particular place to buy it is how pretty the girl is, and whether they have regulars or something. It's hilarious. They kept trying to get me to try it while I was there, and I'm like, good, thanks very much. I did drink cobra's blood. Speaking of snake eaters, I did drink cobra's blood in Taiwan, but I did not at any time try bin lan. And the Cobra's blood was hot.
But you mentioned about Iran.
Yeah.
Like before Ayatollah Khomeini and the hostages. I mean, you can go back and look at some of the photographs.
Oh my God.
Of Iranian women in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like San Francisco, for fuck's sake, or New York even.
And this is what happens when you allow these groups to take power. Like it's like right now in Afghanistan, the Taliban are in power.
Right.
When you allow these people to take hold, they absolutely take over everything.
Right.
And it's not going to benefit a woman or girls. It doesn't.
Never.
They don't exist.
It's a curious thing. And this is one of those things where you really get into the value of trade versus aid. That long-term aid to a country can create a detrimental cycle. Now, when I talk about this kind of stuff, I'm sure it sounds a little bit like when right-wingers talk about welfare in the United States, which is bullshit. But there is Bono, the musician, not my good friend who's a painter and a comedian, but Bono apparently had in all of his sort of peacenik travels around the world trying to, help in Africa and all these other places, and good on him for doing it. Good on you too for spending their spare time trying to make the world a better place. One of the big, light bulbs that went off in his head was when he went from aid to trade, because he recognized this sort of cyclical issue of aid in these countries. While on the one hand, we in the West are like, these people will starve to death unless somebody gets them some food. The problem is we get that in there, and then the people who are running the place, it keeps them in power, whereas they might have been pushed out earlier because the place is falling apart and people are starving. We're like, well, saving these lives is more important to us, but at the same time, it is keeping these monsters in charge, right?
Yeah.
And
the same thing happened. The same thing happened to us in Haiti.
Yes.
And I will tell you, I got into a big old pissing contest. I was a major at the time, and I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. We were the first ones on the ground when the earthquake happened in Haiti. Oof. And it was about clearing lines of communication, clearing the rubble and the bodies out of the streets because they were everywhere. But then we got to a point where it was about, beans, rice, water. That become the main issue.
Sure.
And I can remember, we set up these distribution spots, and we had to have security about a mile out because, we're given, and I hate to say it, but this is what they did. They said, look, we're going to give all this stuff to the women because if we give beans, rice, and to women, they'll most likely use them on their kids. If you give them to the men in Haiti, I mean, they'll go around and they'll try to, sell them and use them for power. But I remember this was like 2.5 months after we had gotten there.
Right.
And I remember I had to take a whole bunch of rice to a distribution spot, and they told me where to take it to. They said, you're going to drop one off at every house. Well, next thing you know, I'm in Pétionville. Pétionville is where actor everybody tells me I look like him. Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Sean Penn?
Sean Penn. Yeah, Sean Penn was staying with our cavalry scouts up there in Pétionville. And I had to go to Pétionville, and I got in this area, and it was a absolute amazing, big, beautiful community with guards, men at AK-47s standing in front of every garage. And I was like, I'm not giving these people shit. These people, I mean, they're rich. Their houses were built in a way that they didn't crumble, but this was literally us going up there, and I didn't do it, but that's what they wanted was for us to go out there and give all these wealthy people a bunch of food and stuff so that some guy could, gain
distribute
their favor.
Or pour it into a barrel take it out of the U.S. bag or whatever that says where the aid came from, pour it into a barrel, and then drive up with the barrel and start scooping it out to everybody for fealty to that particular group or gang or political group that runs that particular section. And that's been and again, that is the trade-off. And it is really a fucking Sophie's choice. It is really, difficult to unpack how you solve this. Because on the one hand, you're giving power to these people that will maintain power longer because you're giving this help. But on the other hand, these people will die without it. Perhaps. Maybe they won't, but perhaps. And the chance that they would is worth it for most of the time. But it is exactly how, half of how we got support for, the Mujahideen and all these other groups during Afghanistan didn't start out as weapons, started out as they were being isolated by the Soviets and they were going to starve to death. And we started giving them food. And then we realized they were fighting back and getting killed. And we're like, well, here, have some rifles. And that was, we're not using them anymore, Like the Arvin rifles, never been fired and only dropped once, left over from the Vietnam War or whatever. So, I mean, I think it's the thing I go back and forth on the most, because literally the amount of aid the United States gives to Gaza, not just to Palestinians in general, but the Gaza Strip, the amount of money we have given on a yearly level is equal to the military aid we give to Israel. The humanitarian aid, medical supplies, money specifically for medical supplies and staffing, and the money that goes to the UN and through NGOs, that the United States government, by the way, doesn't just use the UN. They also use NGOs to get this stuff in, because we don't trust because even though we say we do, we don't really trust Unwra in a lot of these situations. So we try to get food around the corner to people by using several different aid organizations that we have relationships with in other parts of the world that don't have a dog in the fight. And it's a tough fucking decision. It's a tough situation, because on the one hand, and we'll see too, because insofar as I know, I think in February, around the 11th or something like that, Unwra's yearly budgetary mandate comes up for a vote again. And I think it's a 5-year plan or something like that. It comes up every 5 years or whatever. It just happens to fall on this February after this shit just hit the fan. And I don't see it getting re-upped. I see HCR taken over and Unwra basically being dissolved, which is how it should be. Because they should, if the UN is handling civil rights, refugee rights in different areas, they should be kind of an equal, apolitical group that just makes sure people have enough food and medical supplies and that kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But I mean, it's like, our government, at any given moment, we probably are dealing with about 15 to 20 tyrants across the globe.
Lord. Right.
I mean, and we know,
because we care more about their people than they do. That's the most fucked up shit. I mean,
but look at that. I mean, look at Black Hawk Down. It was a starvation event that was taking place, and the supplies that we were given were being stolen as soon as they got to the distribution spots, and there was very little we could do about it. That happens in all these third world countries out there. And literally every third world country that exists, you could probably say that there's definitely a contact between us and them where we're providing them with some form of aid. Mm-hmm. And it's always, up for grabs that some tyrant can come in at any given time and start another situation like you had in Somalia. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's reality for the world.
There's a movie called Tears of the Sun. It's a really a not too well-known Bruce Willis film. And it takes place, it's about a U.S. military team bugging out some aid workers and some doctors in an area because there's this, it's basically Sudan. and there's this militia group that's coming, and they can see from a satellite these fuckers are just walking towards this place, and they're just gonna kill everybody. And since it's not our fight, we can't evacuate everybody, but we have to get out the aid workers, and we have to get those. So they land a couple helicopters with some soldiers and go get on the fucking plane. And the woman who runs the place doesn't want to because she doesn't want to leave the people behind. But he's like, I can't fit all these people in a fucking helicopter. And then they decide, which is parts of it are based on a true story. They decide to double back and help, and save these folks. And it's fucking brutal. It's brutal.
I saw it a long time ago.
The scene. Okay, there's one of the reasons why when you hear stories about the Vagner Group helping the RSF, the Rapid Strike Force in fucking Sudan. And how they'll give forcible mastectomies, I will just call it, to mothers so that they cannot nurse their children. So they will die. So the woman dies, bleeds to death essentially, but they can't nurse the child while if anybody even manages to save their life. They will just, and the fucking Vagner Group is like the group that fucking taught them this technique. And they do it now. They're doing it now. They're doing it in Darfur right fucking now. And the weird part is like the UN, and Tara's waiting in the wings, and I'll be talking to her in a second, and I want to make sure everybody checks out turnleftpack.org and gets themselves some sweet Jackaloon merch and helps us shore up the vote, because fucking there is no excuse to let Donald Trump, who would carpet bomb the fuck out of Gaza and pull a fucking Martin Sheen in the dead zone when it comes to Iran. The missiles are away, hallelujah. Fucking hell. The reason I feel like when you hear these stories about what the Vagner Group is doing in Darfur right fucking now is because in that movie, they show it. And it's just, that scene where they have to give the guy in, I think it's Saving Private Ryan, so much morphine that he just dies.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a scene like that in the movie for a woman who's been just brutalized by these guys. And it is fucking dark. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, when Marjorie Taylor Greene supports fucking Russia or tries to protect them, in Ukraine's, war of freedom to protect themselves, all I can think about is that's who she's supporting. That's what she's supporting.
Yeah, it bothers me that we have so many people in this country now who have decided to stand on the side of Putin because Donald Trump would, and that it really sickens me. And I hope that they all burn in hell. And I hope that Donald Trump absolutely goes down horribly. I know that this is it's supposed to be at the end of the month, so we're going to hear it within the next day or two. And I hope they absolutely clean his friggin' bank account out.
Oh yeah, he doesn't have it anyways. Fuck, he has to put the money for E. Jean Carroll in a escrow account while he appeals, because that's how the New York system works, which is fucking great.
But he can't appeal. For what I was looking into, said that because Elena Haba said no objection, they didn't do what they were supposed to do in order to be able to file an appeal.
Well, so she asked for a mistrial at one point and was denied, so they're going to try and use that. It's not going to work. My point is though that he doesn't get to file bullshit appeal attempt one after the other to try and dodge it. The money will already be in an account. So
I think it's good because I want to see these people get paid. I'll be honest with you. I won $400,000 in a lawsuit after taking a pipe to the back of the head and 8 broken bones in my face with brass knuckles. But I never got a single penny of that money because his family took everything out of his name. And then the sack of shit died after his 9th friggin' overdose, finally. But I'll never get a penny of that. But, that's the thing is I want to see, Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman get the money that they deserve.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got drugged through the freaking garden. And literally the rest of their life, they will never be able to sleep comfortably unless they are behind locked in areas because of the fear that they have. You know, I want
or they get to change their fucking name, or because they could. You could argue, like Ruby Freeman, Shay Moss could change their name and move, and maybe they're known on the down low by a couple of people in their neighborhood, but and still like kind of get slightly off the radar. E. Jean Carroll will never be able to do that, and she will always have to look over her shoulder because of this fucking punk and his bullshit followers who, will. We've got Tara in the background. I'm here. Okay, well, I'll get to you in just 1 second.
That was a real cough. That wasn't.
I know. I'm kidding. I want to remind everybody though. Turnleftpack.org. And when are you live streaming right now? What's your schedule?
I go live every night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Excellent.
On Ojeda Live on Facebook and on YouTube.
Excellent.
I should get on with him.
I insist. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So thank you, my brother. I greatly appreciate it. You are fantastic, and I will see you in the next week, hopefully, if we can if you can arrange it. That's great.
I'm always down for that, brother. Always.
Thank you, my friend.
Always enjoy the House Park show.
Oh brother. Yeah, man. Okay, thank you so much. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon. Everybody, give it up for the Major. And then let's see, we'll go to there, and he can pop out. And look at that. You're not the Major. You're Tara Dublin. You have your own name on here thing. Hold on. Burp. There you go. Whoops. Oh, because it's got a transition. Boink. Weep. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. The Tara Dublin. Tara Dublin rocks. There she is, and author of The Sound of Settling, and also in a in a much wider screenshot today, which is nice. It's a good look. We're seeing a lot more of Tara. There we go.
There's not that much to see, so good. Yeah,
that's the spirit.
I'm wearing plaid in honor of Taylor Swift today.
Oh, I see. I thought it was just I thought that was just Portland uniform.
It's a multi-layered message today with the plaid, because not only are we will talk about Taylor because I'm a Swiftie over 50.
Understood.
But today I get to work on a movie that's shooting here in Portland. And there is an actor from the All Too Well 10-minute video who is in this movie. And so it's a double thing, because it's plaid shirt nights when you made me your own. I'm just going there because I'm now going to be an additional 1 degree from Taylor Swift. I was already 1 degree from her because Ryan Reynolds follows me back on Twitter, and because I went to acting camp with Sean Levy in 1983. So today we'll make the Taylor trifecta. And if I don't become friends with Taylor Swift after this, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think you've got, I'm just seeing her showing up, or a character sort of resembling her showing up in the sequel to The Sounds of Settling. That said,
well, here's the thing. I would, when The Sound of Settling becomes a streaming series, as we are manifesting, I would love for Taylor Swift to direct an episode, because I want only women to direct. I want as many women behind the scenes as possible, along with all of the people that I worked with on Grimm, which I'll probably see a lot of Grimm crew today. They're all
there.
They probably are there, yes. And I love my old Grimm crew. And for people who don't know, I was on the TV show Grimm for 6 seasons. I was a featured background extra in The Precinct. My desk was right next to David Giuntoli. And so, and he's so dreamy. And now he's directing episodes of the latest Superman show that his wife, Bitsy Tulloch, is starring in, because she's Lois. But anyway, Portland is like that. And there's a lot of creativity here. And I'm really excited. I haven't worked on a film in a while. And I'm really excited to get to do that. And hopefully by the end of today, I don't know, maybe Taylor Swift and I'll be texting. We don't know. It could happen. I'm not saying. But why not?
Stranger Things?
She would love this book. Who doesn't love a rock and roll love story?
Hoot Johnson says, hold on. Hoot Johnson in the chat says Hal was an extra in Spider-Man. Excuse me, I had a speaking part. I was a featured comic moment. Thank you very much. I improvised. We did 3 versions of that scene. Simmer down, extra. Get out of here. Also, I've never done extra work in my life, but it's background is the preferred nomenclature. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Back to one. I love working background, and it's so much fun, and it's a huge privilege And I'm incredibly grateful. And I love all of that behind the scenes stuff. I mean, when you see the completed show, it's super cool and everybody's entertained by it and everybody enjoys it. But I love knowing, hey, you know, I stood there and that was where the camera was. And there was a few times I got to be a stand-in when I worked on Grimm. And that's even more fun because then you're the crew and you get to eat from the real crafty table.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you get more than you get more than like warm M&Ms.
Yes, or old trail mix. Today it's even more special because a lot of times when there's something shooting here in Portland, it's not actually within the city limits. It's usually like a half an hour out in some field or whatever. It's in my neighborhood. They're filming in my neighborhood, so I get to walk to base camp.
You'd be a featured extra just by going to the nearest crater.
Maybe.
#RIP Portland.
And then so they have base camp nearby, and then we're filming nearby in a restaurant. So probably whenever we wrap, I won't even have to go back to base. I can just walk home. So it's all a sort of kismet because there's the Taylor Swift connection, and then there's the fact that it's in my neighborhood. So I'm just enjoying that. And the fact that the call time isn't until 1:30, also glorious because I didn't have to get up in the middle of the night to go there. So it's all falling into place. It's just a good way to start a week along with you, my friend. And E. Jean and Taylor Swift telling the whole world to suck it because her boyfriend's going to the Super Bowl.
So I think it was Maggie Haberman was in court for the whole Trump E. Jean Carroll thing. And she went through all the stuff like that he was doing while he was in court. She was sort of like keeping tabs on his behavior. And he was, most of the time he was fidgety as fuck. And he was doing stuff because he was like, it's like he was signaling third base. He was like pushing his hair down and pressing his tie and just kind of doing the whole, like, I just farted yank on his jacket pocket that he does, or his lapel.
He's got a lot of OCD
he's got a,
kind of like self,
what's
that called? Self-care. When you self, because no self-nurturing, because his parents never held him, his mother never held him, so he's got to check in with himself. Am I still here? Is my tie still here? Is my butt still here? Is my hair still here?
Right. So he apparently went, we heard about his outbursts where he was making noises and they were saying he can be heard saying stuff, and the judge had to interact and tell them to, get your client under control and stuff. When this is from her telling of it, but Judge Lewis Kaplan told the jury that the previous jury had already ruled that Trump, quote, sexually abused Carroll. He described the act, and Trump loudly proclaimed, "Yuck." He literally went,
it's disgusting what he did.
Yuck. Exactly. Sure. I'm so glad to hear. Yeah, he was disturbed by his own behavior, I suppose.
He's so gross.
And then let's see. The Carroll's lawyer showed clips of Trump's deposition video, and Trump's lawyer ordered that the whole video be submitted into evidence. And played, Trump exclaimed. And played, his lawyer Alina
said you want to see it again? You want this jury to see you misidentifying Marla Maples as E. Jean Carroll? I'm fine with that.
Oh, you dumb motherfucker. Now, that was part of the clip that she actually showed, right? She actually did show that part. And
it's important.
And
I got sundowning.
Well, first of all, here's I think that was previous to when he was really like when his brain farts became, brain diarrhea, right? Hot brain soup. Is that that moment is not even a brain fart. That is right after he said she's not my type. I don't find her attractive.
100% his type.
She's not my type. And then he mistakes her for not only his wife, but the wife that he cheated on his first wife with, who, by the way, initially in their divorce papers said that he sexually assaulted her and later took it back, largely because if she kept it up, she was going to fall down a flight of stairs or something.
Whoops, and that still happened.
Whoops. Curious. So
exhume that coffin anyway. Keep going.
Yeah. There are his whole thing was I'm being denied my rights or whatever. Like,
no, you're not.
No, you're not. It's like these assholes driving up.
And you fucked it up so badly that your lawyer took you off the stand after 3 minutes.
Yeah. This is
twice as long as he lasted with Stormy. So good.
If I may, and I apologize ahead of time, folks. This is a picture of Trump in court. Look at his eyes. They're fucking bloodshot as shit. This is an angry.
He got a care package from Dr. Feelgood to take home, right? He probably has hella ketamine hidden.
Oh my God! Right, we haven't had a chance to talk about Doc Ronnie's.
He's the one they call Dr. Feelgood. He's the one who
right.
make it feel
all right. Yeah. So yeah, Doc Ronnie, who was by the way, doing the sort of Gish Gallop cover, went out and did a video of himself holding 2 machine guns, holding 2 AR-15s. Going, come and get them, blah, blah, blah. Basically just trying to create a little bit of a social media storm to hide the fact that this other story was coming out. Fill people in for those that don't know about what was discovered about the White House pharmacy during the Trump years. And I'll bring it up. I'll find the actual. It
basically had a revolving door on it, did it not? Because it was like prior to the Trump and by the way, fuck you, NBC News, for the headline that said prior to the Biden administration. What? No, the only administration that abused the use of the White House pharmacy, which, by the way, I didn't know they had one. I did not know that.
Yeah, of course they do.
Why would we know that? Why should we know that? But we know that now. And by the way, the fact that they discovered drugs at the White House left behind in a coat room, don't tell me someone didn't grind that up and then, oops, left it in their coat from the Trump administration. Anyway, so it turns out, and there are records of it, they have records of prior to the Trump administration, like this person needed an aspirin, this person needed some allergy meds or whatever. After Ronnie Jackson takes over, the information from the dispensary is like, have all the ketamine you want. Take them like Tic Tacs. Why don't you?
The stuff that killed
speed and downers and all the things, just popping them left and right. So the Adderall, the things to bring him up, the things to make him sleep, which is why he was maybe sleeping 2 hours a night while he was illegitimately squatting in the Oval. But the fact Ronnie Jackson is a fucking lunatic and belongs in prison along with Trump because all he did, basically, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he shot him up constantly. Like here, or shot him in the ass so that he wouldn't have track marks on his arms or whatever. But we always knew the Trumps were on some kind of drugs. I mean, Junior is walking cocaine. So it's not surprising to find this out. It's just validating is what it is. And we've had a weekend. There it is. We've had a whole weekend of validation of the truth coming out. And denialism across the board from MAGA and them trying to distract. Like you said, Ronnie Jackson can put up any kind of crazy bullshit. Doesn't change the fact that this is true. This is real. You can try to create a distraction out of the Eugene thing, where there's a lot of rape apology going on right now and a lot of denialism around it. Doesn't matter. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to, MAGA. It won't change the fact that Trump is an adjudicated rapist. Yay, you.
Yeah. So, and also that Trump
behavior.
And also the fact that, like, all of his stuff about drug dealers should be murdered and blah 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 because they sell it on the street. He gets everything that he wants in delivered like Uber Eats. But this is the fascinating. Okay, so Provigil, for those that don't know, is an anti-narcolepsy drug that is given for sleep shift disorder. Famously, Amber Heard was on Provigil or another version of it, and it is not uncommon for actors on shows to be given a prescription for this for periods of time. If you go from night shoots to day shoots to night shoots, or like some doctors will take it if they have sleep shift disorder. That's the benefit that came from it, was that yes, it treats narcolepsy, but also it resets your body clock much faster. Right, that's what it was for. It also, usage of it, there was rumors that it increased your IQ by about 8 points. Clearly, it did not work in the Trump White House, but that you could tell that they were, believing the hype in that regard. Now, 100 milligram tablets, not particularly big. The ones that you will see, like in the stories that I've read about, like college kids, doing nootropics and the like, they're doing 150 to 200 milligrams of this shit, which is probably why the volume of pills is this high. The other thing, too, is if you're buying the small stuff to keep it kind of like, oh, it's only 100 milligrams, that's a very low dosage. If you're snorting it, you're crushing it up and snorting it, you need a lot more pills. There's a lot of kill dust aspect of that where, and Trump and his whole fucking sniffing starts to make sense. Now, morphine and fentanyl shows up a lot in this. Fentanyl. Like it's morphine, 20.
You mean all of that fentanyl that Joe Biden is letting just come through the border because Joe Biden doesn't care about the border?
Right.
That's where all the fentanyl's coming from, right? Right? I mean, I don't know what the fuck they're
clearly
saying these days, but yeah.
Right.
So, and by the way, this is somehow Joe Biden's fault also.
Of course. 800 Ambien pills. Look at this. Wow. Fucking 100. And that is like, look, Trump only flew overseas a couple of times during his presidency. Most of the time he was just going, across the country on a 3 to 5 hour flight max. And yet, apparently, they were having to knock this motherfucker out like he was Michael Jackson. Like, because
they had to bring him down from the Adderall.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, they're right. The Provigil and whatever fucking else. Like, is that hydrocodone, which is the stuff that supposedly.
You get to feel all floaty on the hydrocodone.
Do you? Okay.
It's happy make. I mean, it's. I have had to take hydrocodone. I had wrist surgery back a long time ago before my son was born, and they gave me hydrocodone for that.
Yeah.
It's a pain med, and if you can, the problem with a hydrocodone on anything like that, like Oxy, like anything from that family, is you can build up a tolerance to it very quickly.
This is okay. The other thing too is 2,000 on 8/5/19. 2,000 Ambien. Look down here at the bottom. I'll try to see if I can move this up a little bit.
How many people even work in the White House?
This is the same. This is the same year.
Crazy.
This is the same year. How do you?
Did all 2,000 go between Junior and his dad? I mean, what the fuck?
Well, that's the thing. Does Ronnie just put a bunch of it in his bag? It makes it to Trump's plane and it stays there. That's fucking crazy. They just did on July 9th. They got 10 fentanyl, 300 Ambien, Zonath, 300 of those. Provigil, they got 300 of those on July 7th, and 20 ketamine. And then a month later, 2,000 Ambien. You could tell they wrote 1,000 Provigil, and he wrote 990, scratched out the 1. I don't know what happened to the fucking 10. Was that just sample?
Well,
diazepam, and then
point is if you have this, you should try to line it up with Trump's itinerary from that time. Where was he going, and what was he saying, and what was he doing? What was he doing when he was this hammered on a cocktail that would kill a fucking horse? I mean, there's crazy amounts of drugs.
Well, there is this whole thing about the ordered by and received by part.
Strange that we can't get that information.
Hey, maggots in the chat. But tell me
about.
Are there
maggots in the chat?
Oh, there always are. We always do. They always have them in there. But can I just say for the record? I don't know. Can I just say what was that about transparency again? About Trump and his transparency?
He's the most innocent and transparent person ever, which is why he needs immunity immediately, right?
Yeah.
All innocent people need immunity because
of course.
Nothing they say or do makes sense. Nothing. Is it? Oh, and this conspiracy theory around Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and the Chiefs winning yesterday. It's ridiculous. It is. Have you heard you've heard this, right? So basically, they're twisting themselves into conspiracy pretzels, and this is what the story would have to be.
Okay.
To believe if it was true,
right?
This me last summer. Who had taken his time. He had repeatedly tried to contact Taylor Swift because he had a big old crush on her and he was not quiet about it. Right. So basically what they're saying is the Democrats conspired with the Kansas City Chiefs to make sure that Travis would get a crush on Taylor Swift, that she would eventually reciprocate and yes, talk to him. Then they would meet, then they would date, then they would become a couple, then they would become a public couple, and then they would play this very long game so that she would keep showing up to make him win, including yesterday, so that they could go to the Super Bowl under false pretenses. That's essentially what MAGA is saying.
Right.
Fucking
well,
crazy
and because
are you to
because
think
she'll
a
be
football game is rigged?
well, and
Does
that she's gonna
mean,
they're gonna raise her profile as if you fucking could right now with her right.
I
mean, the only way you could raise
fault that Tom Brady lost or won a game, is it
right.
Jessica Simpson's fault that Tony Romo lost or won a game?
Probably.
Is it? But is it only when it's a white woman? I'm not sure. Is it when she's the biggest pop star on the planet and has more money than anybody? That's a threat to you, tiny little pathetic losers.
And well, she's also an example that the economy is doing better than they say it is all the time, because people are paying like $500 fucking dollars to take 4 of their kids to the fucking thing, and then going home and saying Biden's economy sucks to their husband just to keep them fucking quiet.
Now they're also putting out a thing saying that the whole reason they're going to the Super Bowl is so that at halftime she can perform and then declare that she's supporting Joe Biden for president, which is fucked up beyond, because she's not playing the halftime show. And right now, no one even knows if she can actually get to the Super Bowl because she's playing in Tokyo the night before. So, and because of the time difference and the international timeline and all of that, she could possibly get there and then turn around and go back to Asia. I'm not really sure what they're suggesting, but
well, obviously she's taking the same route that Trump's votes took when they were changed. So she's on the same rocket ride to Spain via satellite.
Somebody did the math, and it's like, because if she leaves immediately after the Tokyo concert and flies for 11 hours, but because of the time difference and everything else, she'll still arrive like an hour before the game starts or something. And then as soon as the game is over, she can get back on a plane and fly to her next destination, which I think is another 12-hour flight.
Fuck me. Look.
That's love. I mean, if you're going to do that for your man, that's some love. I get that. But I mean, again, it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with voting. It has nothing to do with anything except the sport of football. And if you never believed a football game was rigged before yesterday, then you need to shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Okay, real quick, bit of breaking news.
My, good. Bring
that CNN is announcing that OAN executives, Orange Asshole Network, the right wing kind of RSBN.
I'm leaning in because I really want this.
May have, quote, engaged in criminal activities while promoting 2020 election lies, according to Smartmatic, because they found evidence that here, I'll bring it up. In the wake of the 2020 election, the president of the far-right network, One American News, sent a potentially explosive email to former Trump campaign lawyer Sidney Powell with a spreadsheet claiming to contain passwords. Yeah, that's true. Passwords of employees from the voting technology company Smartmatic, according to court filings. The existence of the spreadsheet was recently disclosed by Smartmatic, which is suing OAN for defamation. CNN pieced together who was involved in the email exchanges by examining court records from 3 separate cases stemming from the 2020 election. Lawyers from Smartmatic told a federal judge that the email and the attached spreadsheet suggest OAN executives may have engaged in criminal activities because they appear to have violated state and federal laws regarding data privacy. They basically hired someone to hack in or catfish or rat fuck the OAN or the Smartmatic.
I'm so shocked.
Yeah. According to court filings, the supposed passwords were shared around the same time Powell or associates and other Trump supporters were trying to improperly access voting systems across the country to prove their false claims of voter fraud. This would be on Earth One referred to as evidence, as opposed to what Comer peddles, which is information. And in this particular case, this is in their civil case against her and for defamation. But this would be evidence in the Jan 6 case, in the Jack Smith case against Trump and his co-defendants.
There's so much evidence against them. I just really wish that there would come a day that the remainder of Cult 45 would be like, okay, I can't spin this. There's no spin to this. These are facts that I cannot dispute. They won't, because they won't even admit that he's an adjudicated rapist. So why would they? They'll never. It doesn't matter what. There's that segment. We've talked about this before. There's that segment of the cult that will never accept. I'm not shocked to learn that AON was in cahoots with all of this, and Fox and Newsmax and all of them. And the more you dig, the more you're going to find that they were all involved. And they all lost over and over and over. It's so good.
Here's the thing.
Why can't you just, none of your parents taught you how to accept loss with humility and just walk away? Why? Why didn't anyone bother to teach you how to do that? Everybody knows how to just be like, no, okay, I didn't win, I'll live.
Because you can't teach it to somebody with a delicate ego like that. If
No,
somebody's
you
got
can't.
somebody's got an ego made out of glass and feathers, they can't take it.
Well,
And you could explain it to them, you could talk them through it, but if they think they're a piece of shit, their biggest fear is not that they will feel like shit, but that other people will know they're a piece of shit. And the rest of us,
Donald Trump's a piece of shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but the rest of us have to deal with the fact that we might feel like shit if we lose or whatever, but you get over it because you're not shit. You know it. You're just like, I lost in this situation. It doesn't have to attach to the rest of me, and I'll find my way through it. And it might be tough, but I'll do it. Whereas the fucking rest of these dickheads, especially on the maggot side of things, they attach themselves to Donald Trump because they have the same fragile ego he has.
Right. Hey,
you can't take criticism when you're like that. Right. Yeah, Biden's fucking be best was fantastic.
His social game is so on point. Brandon gave away his last fuck forever ago. So
right.
And he's got it. I mean, the whole point is that Joe Biden doesn't really need to do anything except be Joe Biden with all of the facts and his accomplishments and his achievements. However, there's that segment of the population like, what has Joe Biden ever done for me? It's like, only what all Democratic presidents have done, which is clean up the fucking Republican mess he stepped into. Okay.
Can I?
And that's making the rounds.
So real quick, one of our chatters asked earlier about to talk about Evergrande, and for those of you who don't know, and
Everlong.
No, Everlong is good. Evergrande bad. Evergrande is the biggest real estate holding company on earth, or was. And it's in China, and they have this business model where you pay them in full for an apartment and then they build it. And they got behind on making the actual apartments with the money they took. They bought a soccer team. They bought an airline. They invested in crypto, which, but they didn't finish. Yeah, oh yeah, very much so. And they didn't finish they're behind in their building of apartments by about 90 million.
Wow.
While at the same time, having built over 100 million apartments that no one's ever going to live in because they suck, because they're poorly constructed. They've been sitting empty. They're not, it's what they call tofu dragon China. It's just ass. Okay. So when Evergrande is the big dog in Chinese real estate. And in China, the real estate in the United States is 15% of our economy. 15%, about that. Think of the biggest investment in people's lives, all that kind of stuff. It's 15% of our economy. China's 30%. And I keep trying to explain to people about like the economy, or like they're the second largest economy in the world. Yeah, by sheer numbers, but by population, that equation goes to shit immediately. Because here's the idea. If you have one piece of bread and one pat of butter, and that's a good economy, right? You got one piece of bread and one pat of butter. And then you have one piece of butter that's slightly smaller than the other guy's piece of butter, and you have 10,000 slices of bread. Do you have the same amount of butter as the other fellow? Shut the fuck up. This drives me crazy. If you really look at it, the second biggest economies in the world after the United States are Sweden, Norway, to some degree the UK, even France and Germany, because their population to money ratio is much closer, right? They've got, we've got a pat of butter and one piece of bread. They've got one pat of butter and they've got
a croissant.
They've got a quarter of a piece of butter and a half a piece of bread. And so it's a little thinner to spread, but they're okay. They'll be fine, right? They're not quite where they have enough. Well,
so do we think that the Donald Trump, I performed a service for the Chinese for these millions of dollars, is connected to this construction company being like, do you think that there's a connection there? Because remember, Donald Trump was bragging that the Chinese government paid millions for providing a service, but we don't know what that service is.
Oh, I got news for you. Well, I'll show you why. So, anyways, there's Evergrande, there's Country Garden. Country Garden is second. Evergrande is the biggest. Bigger than BlackRock, bigger than, any other country company in the world. And it absolutely collapsed this week. Over the weekend, it's totally eaten shit. Here, I'll translate. Evergrande will be dismantled, a big bang into years of stumbles. Now, at one point, Evergrande was supposed to, the Chinese were backing this company on such a level. It's like if the United States bailed out Apple every single time and then reinforced it and then made MIT, help it with all of its designs and, had NASA give it lenses for free for the phone or whatever, that kind of shit. No, just carrying it and making it an integral part of the government, because no company gets this big unless they are directly tied to the government. They have these local government financing vehicles, these LGFVs, which is they can't sell land and they can't sell resources as a local government, these provinces. So what they do is they lease land to a fake company, and then the fake company takes out a loan and pays back the city, and then everybody takes their slice. It's such the business model is fucking insane, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, of course, it couldn't keep up. And, of course, Xi Jinping pulled the fucking rug out from under it because he was like, holy fuck, we're headed towards a wall. And he tried to jerk the wheel and he crashed the car. Instead of slowing the car over and pulling it over to the side of the road, he rolled it. That's exactly what happened. He just jerked the fucking wheel and killed everybody. And so this giant company is fucking gone. And there is no way Trump and his idiot friends, while he was in the presidency, that Junior and fucking Eric didn't dump some money into this system up until COVID, where they started to try and pull their money out when China was not allowing people, just like Russia, to sell their stock. They got stuck. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons why he's broke. Now, everybody talks about, especially Comer, Joe Biden and his China money, and he's in the bid, doing the bid, and he's sold to China. He's sold to China. Let me show you something. Now, Joe Biden has been in office for a little over about 3 years. Read that headline. Chinese stocks have lost $6 trillion in 3 years. 6 trillion. That's US. That's not 6 trillion yuan. That's 6 trillion fucking US in the last 3 years. And anybody want to guess where that money went?
I don't know.
The fucking Dow. That's where it went. Anybody who could get out got out and went straight into U.S. stocks. Where would you put your fucking money if you wanted to be safe in the world? Argentinian crypto? Like Russian oil?
No.
Chinese stocks since, and I love this. This is the best thing. Like I get all riled up about the fucking people who are finally realizing that COVID was a thing and it actually affected the economy. Chinese shares haven't just had a bad start to 2024. It's been rough going since February 2021. Now,
you don't say.
Who in the last week of January became the person running the U.S. government and immediately started about putting a tourniquet on all of the intellectual property theft, especially around military gear that China has been doing for years, which Donald Trump could have done. Again, the Chips and Science Act, there is nothing about it that could not have been passed during Trump. Nothing. Everybody knew it was a problem. Everybody knew it was an issue. It took Joe Biden to draft the fucking thing, and they did it within 3 weeks of coming in office. They were starting to push this fucking thing, and they already used executive orders to start tamping down on it before the law even got passed. Over the past 3 years, about $6 trillion, equivalent to roughly twice Britain's annual economic output, has been wiped off the value of Chinese and Hong Kong stocks. The Hang Seng has crashed 10% this year alone, while the Shanghai Composite and Shenzhen Composite Index are down 7 and 10% respectively. And that's from, they're already in a fucking hole. They're already in a fucking hole. This is, look, Peter Zion was saying, I think a year ago, and I was like, finally, someone who agrees with me, getting some people are starting to recognize. You better recognize that this shit is, that China's in deep shit. He's actually been calling that there won't be, originally he was saying there won't be a China in 10 years. Now he's saying there won't be a China in 5.
Holy shit.
I agree. I mean, it's going to break up like Russia did. It's going to break up into big, giant provinces.
Good.
Because they're not a country. It's not a fucking country. It's a political party controlling a bunch of different groups. And if you don't believe me, ask the Uyghurs or the Miao people or the fucking Cantonese. Like people who speak Tagalog, anybody, fucking Southern Mongolians who are inside Chinese territory. Ask how they like being controlled by effectively what's become a racist majority in the Han Chinese, who believe that, if you're, Han being the sort of the tall northern Chinese folks who have a bit of an air of superiority about them, is one of the reasons why Beijing, which means North Capital, became the control point over Nanjing, which means South Capital, or Chongqing, which was originally Zhongqing, which is Mid Capital, which is way over in the east, but that's a story for another time. But the reason Beijing became the running place is because the Han decided we're going to breed everybody else out of fucking existence. And that's why they started moving people in and fucking Uyghur women and muscling their way into relationships like that. Why they started transplanting fucking Han Chinese people in Tibet, which is exactly what fucking Russia was doing in the Donbass. Right?
Please.
Shit.
Just out of curiosity, the MAGAs in the chat, when they hear all of this information that is factual, what
right?
Because I'm not looking at the chat. I don't want to get distracted. I want to focus on what you're saying. Guys, can you know that we're not lying to you? Can you know that? Can just trust that Hal is very informed and intelligent and worldly and knows things that every time I come on the show, I learn new stuff.
我最喜欢中国的文化.
See, he's talking and speaking in tongues, y'all. So, but here's the thing.
I must be of craft.
If you come here looking for stuff, like you should just listen. Like the truth isn't scary.
No, it isn't.
The truth is actually the best thing that you could allow into your body and into your heart and into your mind, because it literally sets you free from the anger and all of the ick that you have been carrying inside of you for the years that you have been standing for Trump and twisting yourselves into conspiracy pretzels and making excuses and creating distractions. You have to be so exhausted. That has to be really exhausting to maintain that sort of shade, that sort of posturing. What does that say? That says Chinese stocks have suffered heavy losses
over the past year. Look at that number. Look at that. And I love how CNN, bless their hearts, in an attempt, because they don't know the difference between Chinese government and Chinese people, in an attempt, and this is the lovely thing, to not be racist, what they criticize China as if it's the people and not the government, and they can't separate the CCP from the people, and they don't recognize that that business and the CCP don't exist. It's just a kleptocracy, just like Russia and whatever. So instead of making it red, it's purple. Isn't that adorable? Fuck you. If it's us, it's red. If it's them, it's purple. But and by the way, purple is like a royal color, like yellow in China. It's meant to be a good thing. And here, this is almost more insulting. Look at that. That's just last year. That is just.
That's what losing looks like.
Last year. That's
decline. It's a decline, like Trump's mental state. It's declining.
Joe Biden's just using his China money. There is no China money, you dumb motherfucker. There's they don't have any money. They're fucking broke again. They are this close to being like North Korea with high-speed rail. It's fucking horrible.
And meanwhile, the Republicans are starting to get tired of James Comer too, as well as Speaker Jesus Freak Mike Johnson. They want him out now. Mm-hmm. So,
Well, again, what's your thoughts on the immigration deal? Because I think they're going to have to bring it to a vote. I think this is all bluster and bullshit. I don't think they don't bring this to a vote. If they stop it, because the text is coming out tomorrow or Wednesday, so people will be able to read it, what's in the bill.
Well, first of all, we talked about this last week about the border and how Republicans could have passed a bill forever ago, but they don't want to because it'll also help Ukraine. And they don't want to help Ukraine, and they really don't want to help Joe Biden, right? So they're all about obstructing Joe Biden. So if there's something good in a bill that Biden is offering, they're going to vote against it, and it doesn't matter who it helps. Like the MAGAs in the chat, it's fine. So, what the president is suggesting, the bill that he wants to sign and the bill that he wants the Republicans to pass is a really good one. And if you truly care, if you are someone who truly is concerned about the border, you will support this bill, because then they can actually start doing stuff. Oh no, will it help our ally Ukraine? I mean, why can't you do both? Why can't you be multitasking, people? Why can't you see all of the good instead of just something that you think is bad because CNN said it or MSNBC said it and you don't believe anything? Greg Abbott is a fucking monster.
Yeah.
And every governor who is stepping up to support him is a fucking monster, Kristi Noem. And all of these, everyone who wants another insurrection at the border or another one of those the truck convoys that didn't do anything because they don't want to work or they don't want to do anything, or they want to create a distraction from the fact that Donald Trump is now an adjudicated rapist. All of this seems very manufactured. All of these manufactured distractions, everyone would just take a breath and take a step back and let Joe Biden do his fucking job. They would see everything that he has done, everything he is trying to do, and everything that he will do will actually benefit the country as a whole, not just Democrats, but Republicans and independents and people who don't even fucking vote, okay? He's the president for all Americans, and he doesn't say, I'm going to do this because it'll only benefit my people or it'll only benefit me personally.
Right.
So I would say, and here's the thing, and maybe it sounds naive, but I trust my Democratic president to do right by my country. And so if he is in there and he is saying, this is what I promised to do, I will sign this bill. If I can get this, and this, I'm going to sign it. Give it to him, see what happens. You don't like it, if it doesn't go to plan, if it doesn't seem to be implemented correctly, you can always write to your representatives and demand that they go back to the president and say, we didn't get this and we want this. You have to compromise. That's the other thing about Congress. When there's a Democratic Party and a Republican Party and you're clashing, there's supposed to be a compromise that's supposed to benefit all Americans, because your job is to put country over party. What is the best thing for the country?
Yeah, well, and also
then do that.
I personally think that that the Biden administration has timed this perfectly with the short range of of the electorate's attention span. One of the best things you can do is wait on some of your, if you're fighting a talking point, especially one as egregious and fucking stupid as the border argument, because again, Title 42 was the cause of the big spike across the border and created the industry that the cartels use to get people across the border. They set up fucking shop because under Title 42, you cross as many times as you want and there's no ding on your record. And so if you eventually get through and you eventually, you sell somebody an asylum claim and they're like, yes, we believe you. After 8 tries of bullshitting everybody you came in contact with, you finally find the combination of things you need to say to get through, you can actually make it. Under the regular Title 8, I believe it is, once you cross, if you try twice, you're done. You can never be a citizen, and your asylum claim will be ignored because because of recidivism. But Title 42 took away the penalties for recidivism, and getting rid of it dropped the number of people crossing inexorably. Now, there are a bunch of human beings who are like, okay, under Title 42, I have one more shot. And so most of them this fall tried to come through. This was their one shot while we're still adjudicating asylum things, while they think they're going to close the fucking system, or they're going to shorten the time, or they're going to make it, the standards higher or whatever. Before that happens, let's try and go across. And so that's what the big rush was. As soon as the weather hit, it dropped to 500 a day. And so they're using videos of the Mexican side of the wall from last summer to sell this idea that every fucking day there's a pile of people trying to, World War Z their way across the thing.
Right. We're not being invaded. Can you just please?
No. Well, that's the, again.
Saying that.
Well, here's the thing. What they're trying to scare people off of is because our focus, rightly so, is on the women and children and complete families that are coming across that are seeking asylum who are, who are trying to get through there. And there is too much sympathy to be had, and it's eating their message. Because people can recognize these women with their kids in tow and these entire families together, right? We can recognize the importance of at least hearing these people's arguments versus, again, they're all like, notice how Trump's always like, notice how these guys are all military age. I'm like, that's also construction age and farming age and standing outside a Home Depot offering to lift heavy shit on your behalf age. Those are working years as well. Of course, and if you have a family in the South and everybody's broke and you're fucked up, or you're going to send your son, who is resilient and strong and most likely won't be sexually assaulted and probably can defend himself and can make it physically over the terrain and through the woods and to grandmother's house we go, across the border into the United States. You're going to send that member of your family because, quite frankly, he's easier to replace than the women and the little ones. That's it. Men have always been the expendable work commodity for millennia. And so if you have why do you think there was sex selection in Chinese abortions specifically? Because the males could work in a fucking coal mine if they needed to, whereas the women couldn't, was the idea. And so they would just go, well, this isn't a child, this is my retirement plan. Right?
Right.
So, yeah. It's why men are drafted. It's exactly right. So the point is that Trump makes this big thing about how these people are, they're all military age males, and they're like, yeah, they're also employment age males who do, quote unquote, the jobs Americans don't want to do, right? You know what I mean? They're good. They're strawberry picking height is the idea, right? And it's such a fucking lame thing. But if we had more agents down there, which is what's in this bill, if we had more judges down there to adjudicate these asylum cases quicker, which is what this bill, what Biden has asked for, and what this bill has in it, you'd be able to weed this out. And also, we'd have technology around the ends of the fucking wall, which stop at private land, which stop at native land, and is fucking dumb. Yeah. So
I'd also just like to add that there's no human is illegal. The person isn't illegal. They may, out of desperation, first illegally cross, but then they will seek asylum in the correct way. And I think people need to give those people a break. Like, I get it. If you're escaping the untenable conditions that, we can't even fathom, and swimming across a river is not going to deter you, and you know that there's razor wire and you're still trying, those people have the tenacity, and they're going to do, like you were saying earlier, they're going to do the jobs that Americans say, oh, I'm not going to do that job. I don't want to do that job. But no human being is illegal. And I hate that message, because there are people who do things in the most desperate moments of their lives. It doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them a person who's trying to survive. And so,
well, here's the thing. You don't know. Here's why I'll push back on this a little bit, in that the phrase illegal immigrant is a reasonable phrase, because they're an immigrant. How they're doing it is illegal. Calling people illegals. Exactly. The difference is, and you can tell the distinction between how people talk about folks. Calling someone an illegal immigrant versus an illegal is a very distinct difference. And by the way, Dr. Dawn saying undocumented is not illegal. They are if they came here illegally by breaking the law and they don't earn those documents. I would argue asylum seekers are legal immigrants who are out of options and must have their cause adjudicated for their own safety, and therefore what they're doing is not illegal. Somebody who's just an economic migrant who's sneaking into the country for any number of reasons is here illegally. And they can be expelled instantly. They often are. That's how it works. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. And I'll tell you why. Because if I overstayed my Chinese visa by a day, one of two things would happen. Soldiers would come to my hotel room, round me up and put me on a plane, or put me in jail and trade me for someone.
Ew.
If you
That's bad.
Yeah. There are a bunch of like YouTubers who used to do pro-China videos, who over time have been kind of less pro-China because of the experiences that they're having there, that are being held in prison right now, with the idea that eventually, if the United States busts somebody like the Huawei boss that was busted in Canada, that they'll trade those folks for them. They're just keeping them for overstaying their visa, which they didn't do, by the way. And here's the other thing. They will cancel your visa and then immediately charge you for overstaying.
That's great. That's great.
The other thing...
That's why Jesus Christ. That's just...
Yeah. People have no idea. Anywhere else in the world, believe me, they don't have a problem calling people illegals. It's not a thing. The difference is, again, if we have judges and if we have the personnel available down there, you can adjudicate the asylum seekers who are not illegal at all. There's nothing illegal about them crossing. They just aren't having their cause heard. Now, there are people who are trying to take advantage of the asylum system or get around it, or again, who are drug dealers or asylum seekers, or they're using the asylum system to be economic migrants. To some degree, fuck those guys. They got strong arms, strong minds, and strong backs. They should stay and fix their own country, as most people do. That's why there's very little secondary migration out of the United States after 1778, right? Because everybody was like, it'd probably be easier if I just went back to France, but I'd rather stay here and be free and build this thing, right? So one Huawei boss equals 1,000 YouTubers.
Being a baby.
He's
just being a baby.
So super sweet. Ears back like, I don't want to be on camera, Baba.
No, but he's Baba. Like, I love my mommy so much. My mommy is the best mommy.
Baba. Well, Baba, you're almost done, right, Baba? Baba, you're almost done, right?
Play with me, mommy. Play with me. Oh, okay, so heavy.
I'm almost to the point where Chud is outside. She's not outside the door yet, but she'll be down here in a minute going, when are you done? Okay.
Yeah, they don't like closed
I need a
doors.
ride. I need a ride upstairs. Okay. I just pooped and I'm exhausted. Anyways, before we get to the end of it, Sounds of Settling available
Sound
on...
of Settling. It's a sound. It's just...
the sound, Did I say sounds?
Settling,
the Sound of Settling, right.
You can buy at TaraDublinRocks.com.
Right, which will take you to the Amazon.
Paperback and Kindle. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's technically free.
There you go.
I got a really great agent rejection on Friday.
Good.
I had queried an agent, and her rejection letter was like, you're a great writer. You have a unique voice. It's great. It's compelling. It's this. I'm just not going to be able to be a tireless advocate for you. And I was like, well, fuck that. I'm the tireless advocate. I just need your connections. So I don't have that. I don't have those connections. So if you're a person who enjoys reading and rock and roll and the Foo Fighters, because the backstory is the Dave Grohl meets Cool fan fiction-y backstory, the reviews are amazing. I have now sold 463 copies.
There you go.
And thank you. And I have written the first draft of a sequel. And I have promised my readers that once I hit 500 copies sold, I will announce the title of the sequel.
Very good.
Maybe even move forward on trying to get it published. But I'm still, like earbud is falling out. Don't hang up.
It happens.
I hate that. But so here's the thing. I need a traditional publishing deal and an option on this thing because everybody wants the streaming series. So I can get Taylor Swift to direct an episode. If you're someone who, for whatever reason, can't afford to purchase a book, which I understand because I can't pay my February rent yet, please just share it. Share it on your socials. Share it in your book club groups. Let people know it exists. That'd be super fun. Or go to my Twitter at TaraDublinRocks and boost my pinned tweet. Henry Winkler has this. Henry Winkler has this book. So, it's just a matter of time before it becomes a thing. So you need to get it now so that you can say you were into my early stuff before I got big. And right. I think that's an important thing to try. And I again, if people are willing to help a struggling writer out, tomorrow I'm going to be on Brian Karem's podcast, by the way, so don't miss that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Brian. Yeah, I'm talking to Brian tomorrow. I got to get with the Major too. I'm gonna ping him and see if I can get on his show at some point.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna see if I can get on a podcast every single day this week. I don't know, why not?
Hey, yeah, fire it up.
I'm not doing anything else except working on a movie today. So, and
there you go.
The one thing that we didn't get to touch on today, maybe we'll get to next week, is that the entire journalism, everybody who's a journalist lost their job last week. Media companies are getting wiped out. There's no more Sports Illustrated, and a ton of BuzzFeed is gone, and a bunch of people who had a writing job last week don't have one this week. I haven't had one for months, but the journalism industry is taking a huge hit. And I'm more concerned than ever now about the truth getting out into the world.
Right.
And because the truth matters now more than anything. So I really would love a job again writing about politics. That'd be great.
Sure. I think a new fairness doctrine as far as ownership, because using anti-monopoly rules are valuable, because one of the reasons why, mismanagement is part of the entire thing about Sports Illustrated in general, just fighting, trying to turn the magazine into something it's not. I mean, look at fucking, I always go back to G4, the gaming channel or whatever, because it was doing just fine. It was actually growing. They were doing great. It was cutting its own path. And then it got bought out. Essentially, its parent company got bought out, and they decided to turn it into a sharper image catalog type of network for clothing and cars and shit for men and that kind of shit, which you could tell the guys who were owning the company just wanted to do that so they could get free shit from all these companies they would be backhandedly supporting or promoting.
They should have just changed the name to the Dude Bro Network.
That's what it was, right? And there was already one of those networks at the time, Spike. Remember that?
Oh,
they were trying to turn it into Spike. Look what happened to fucking Spike, and look what happened to this. It died. But, because people try to buy it and then take it off the mandate that made it something in the first place. They don't stick to the brand. They buy the brand. I mean, look at fucking MTV or even VH1.
It's so
fucking
sad.
Bravo was another, Turner classic movies kind of. They were going to play stuff again because it was repeats essentially. And then it turned into this fucking ridiculous reality monstrosity.
Channel, which I never watch anything on there. I've never seen a housewife. I've never been Below Deck. I don't watch any of that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, it's cheap and there's no return on. It's cheap and there's no return on the investment. So you get there's no residuals for the people performing in it. And nobody wants to watch it twice.
I'm just worried about the truth. I am worried about the truth. It's already hard to figure out what's true and what's not. Thanks, Elon, you piece of shit, going to Auschwitz with a photo op. Fuck you. And Linda Yaccarino is going to be testifying before the Senate. And I really hope that they ask her questions like, why won't you do anything about anti-Semitism? What is Elon Musk actually paying you $6 million plus bonuses to nearly $10 million? What's he really paying you for? And why is your Nepo baby son working for you, helping you spread Russian and Republican propaganda? Why?
Right.
Why is all of this happening? And why? And for me, the questions always start with the word why. But and while you're there in the Congress doing stuff, if you High House Ethics Committee, if you would like me to come to Washington and testify against Matt Gaetz while you're also expanding your investigation into him raping a 17-year-old, I'm right here because Matt Gaetz can't stop harassing me from his congressional website. So the truth matters and truth and consequences is what I want, right? We need a channel called Truth and Consequences, not but and, because my biggest fear, truly, is so many of these websites that we used to rely on shutting down, not being able to get the truth out, and then people not knowing what's real and what's propaganda. And I'm so afraid of that becoming the accepted norm, because when it's already happened where you show somebody the truth. I've had this troll on me for a couple of days. Doesn't matter what I tweet. He comes in and says, Donald Trump's not a rapist. A jury didn't say he was a rapist. Yeah, they did. It doesn't matter what a jury and a judge says. It doesn't. Does it only not matter if they're talking about Donald Trump, or does it matter? When does it matter?
Right.
So I'm just so worried about the truth being gone from when we need it more than ever, especially in this election year, because it's already fucking insane.
Right.
So I don't know how you get the truth out, but I know that like websites like the Daily Beast need to hire me, or Midas Touch, or anybody who writes the truth about politics. I'm right here. You need all of the truthful political voices screaming like the truth as much as possible, as these media companies are getting obliterated. And it matters so much. And people think it's funny. It's not funny. It's not funny watching all of this implode at all.
I agree. I also think there is a little bit of, because people can, where news organizations are now charging people to use their content. If you if you want to post something on Twitter or one of these other things, Twitter has to pay a stipend to these things to help them keep them afloat, which is, I get it. I get where they're coming from. But at the same time, these organizations will take tweets from people like yours truly and will post them as part of the story or as part of the reaction without any compensation either.
Right.
Which, again, the idea is that promo is enough of a compensation. Well, like,
no, it isn't. Doesn't pay my rent.
No, yeah, that's right. You
Sure
can't
don't.
eat it. Yeah, like my dad.
Cannot.
My dad's first bluegrass record that he recorded with his band in the early 70s, the Buzzard Rock String Band is the name of the band. Their first album was called Dying from Exposure, because every gig was like, there's no pay, but it's good exposure. And
it's
so
good exposure, because any minute someone's
exposure.
going to come along and pay you money that we can't. No, they're not.
Right. There's no pay, but it's good exposure.
That's a bill of goods we've been sold since Twitter was a thing, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, I can't pay you for this blog, but I'll put it on Twitter and you'll get an agent in 2 days. That's still waiting for that. So,
yeah, it's curious.
Someday, any day now. Any day now.
Yeah, and the other thing is that they hired way too many people that were writing from home about shit they don't know anything about, especially overseas stuff, and basically just copying stuff from people who are actually in Israel, actually in Ukraine, actually there, and that's why I was like glad to bring on Phil on my show, because at least I'm having somebody who's talking about it with me who's there, right?
Yeah. It matters. I mean,
yeah, it does.
And any mod that's remaining in the chat, like if you're confused about what the truth is, and you can be respectful, I'll talk to you. You have to be respectful. You can't be like, oh, libtard.
Right. Well, they start out that way. You gotta understand, it's like a feral cat. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna start out scratchy and hissy. But
like, guys, come on.
Takes a while.
Like if you truly, here's the thing: which do you care about more, being a dipshit bully for clicks, or the future of your country? Like if it's the first thing, don't bother me.
I'm thinking. Right.
If it's the first thing, then I'm not going to waste any of my energy on you. If you're going to,
you're here to bully, right?
To bully and troll and distract.
They all pull a Jack Benny.
On me.
I'm thinking.
Oh,
Rochester. Yeah, boys.
So we're old. So anyway, here's the thing.
I wasn't alive for that. The fuck does that have to do with it? It's like quoting Shakespeare and go, God, you feel old?
No,
I mean, Lear was just
knowing those references. It's also like we know how to dial a rotary phone. They're just things that we know. They're just things. Somebody the other day on Twitter somebody mentioned MacGyver, and somebody responded, "Who's MacGyver?" And you're just like, "Oh my god!"
Give me a pack of gum and a bobby pin, and I'll fucking show you. That's
right, and I'll bust us out of this jail cell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, but seriously.
Yes.
Care about the truth, and if you don't have to like the truth. But you do have to learn how to accept it and live with it. Do you think I like the truth about Michael?
You don't have to.
No, I did not.
I got news for you.
I did not like that truth at all.
You don't have to learn to live with it. It just doesn't give a shit.
Well, no. And here's the thing: you are welcome to live like an ostrich, but it's to your detriment. I don't care if you want to live like that and live in denial and whatever. You want to not believe it as
live like an ostrich with your head in the sand, and believe me, it won't be long before someone like Donald Trump sneaks up behind you with his little fucking limp Vienna sausage and decides to take out his hate on the world on your nether regions. Sorry for that mental picture. I apologize.
It's time to grab him back. Eugene grabbed him by the Percy. Ha ha.
Right. That's funny. I like that. That's good.
All
That's
the
good.
Eugene memes.
They've already started collections on him, I would like to say, for the record. They've already started the process of collecting from him.
Get it.
They've already
get it. And by the way, Alina Habba, you're not too pretty for prison. I don't care how many times you go see Donald Trump's his daddy Trump's plastic surgeon. Do you know I have a nickname for her? Her nickname is Habba the Jut.
Yeah, I like it.
Habba the Jut. Mark Hamill approved, by the way. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Right? So
yeah.
This is why she's talented. She's clever like that. She knows what she's talking about. Hashtag hire Tara. God damn it. I'm so poor. It's really frustrating. It's not. I mean, I joke about it, but it's actually not funny to not be able to pay your rent. And it's not funny to sit in, worry. To sit in worry constantly. I don't have to worry about this. I need one person. Honestly, Stephen King follows me back on Twitter. We have not had an interaction since he followed me back. I don't know why. Maybe he accidentally followed me back.
Send him a free copy.
How am I going to get this to Stephen King? I don't know how to get this to Stephen King.
Find out who his agent is and mail it to his agent.
Have you ever seen this? Seen this? Okay. So in 1985, when I was a junior in high school taking honors English, or sophomore, I guess I was sophomore in 1985. I was a sophomore, and I did a paper comparing Stephen King to H.P. Lovecraft. And so back in those days, if you wanted information about somebody and they didn't have it in the library, I wrote to him via his publisher. And I got like a packet of information, like mimeograph. Remember mimeographs? All this information. Stephen King was born in 1940. So, but at the bottom of that was like, good luck and hope you get an A. But I had also asked about the then not in print book, The Dark Tower. So the day after I got the packet of information, I got a postcard from Stephen King. It is dated May 31st, 1985. And it says, Dear Tara Dublin, thank you very much for your interest. As of November 1985, Don Grant in Kingston, Rhode Island, told me The Dark Tower is officially out of print. If you're still interested in obtaining a copy, may I suggest you contact a reputable dealer of used books and out-of-print editions. May I also suggest you refuse to pay more than $50. Stephen King. I forgot to close this information with the stuff for your term paper. This has lived on my desk since 1985.
That's
and
sweet.
Every single day, that's my inspo. Because if anybody knows the legend of Stephen King, he threw out the manuscript for Carrie and his wife took it out of the trash and said, finish this. So, yes. So,
here's my inspiration. You want to see what's on my desk? My inspiration?
Well, I have pictures like that too. Here's Jack when he was a baby. He's now 25.
Yeah.
Oh, and Jack's bike got stolen over the weekend, which sucks. And then here's Ben. There's Ben when he was little.
There's
little Ben, who's now 21, almost 21. My son Ben is a junior in college, and he is spending, here's funny, he's spending the second semester of his junior year in Bethesda, but studying in Washington, D.C. Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah. So
we're going to have a meetup or something. We'll figure it out. I'm going to get up to Portland soon. We'll figure it out.
I got to get up here because we have Bridgetown to take care of. I got to take you to Lobar Corral. And I have to show you where all where the craters are. We'll go to the best craters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll bring marshmallows.
Take you to the best ones.
Hashtag Rip Portland. Thank you, Tara. We'll see you next Monday.
TaraRocks.com.
That's right. And everybody else, I'll see you this afternoon. Bye. Bye. See you later. There she goes. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much, by the way. Let's see if I can jump up here and go to the chat. There you go. How about that? Boink. Hi, chat room. Thank you guys so much for being with me this morning. Good Lord, we had so much conversing. We went overtime, and I still didn't get to fucking... Can you still fly direct to Portland? No, you have to hike in. You have to find a trapper or a trader, somebody in the beaver pelt and uranium industry, and they'll walk you in. But yeah, so I didn't even get to half the shit I wanted to talk about because we just got on a tear with both of our guests. So I will see you guys later on this afternoon when I will address the curious case of right-wingers who are scrubbing the internet of shit they have said. Yes, there is a show tonight. Of course there is. But until then, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Oh, yes.
Living outside, it's packed.
hitting that like. Hit the like on your way out the door, folks. Thank you so much, Pat. Look at that. You can save it to the end, but it helps in the beginning. I'm just saying. Don't forget. Oh, yes. Come on. Yes. Oh, thank you, Regina. Oh, subscribe. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, thank you, Chandra. Thank you so much. Look at these subscribers showing up. Look at these new subscribers. Thanks, folks. Look at this big list of people. On the morning show, no less. Finding us, subscribing. Bless your hearts. Thank you so much. Thanks, CJ. For liking the stream. Come on now. Patreon.com/HouseParks. Super chat, stars, bits, on your way out the door. Always helpful. Later. All right. Come on, everybody now. Body down. Body like a body man. Body man. Oh, yes.
I like fighting number 2.
Here I am like an idiot.
I agree. I'm a dope.
De-engineering.
Free health care for illegal. Yeah, look.
Here I am like an idiot. Michigan gave us Motang. Here I am like an idiot. The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese. Here I am like an idiot. Action replays in magnified fortune. Here I am like an idiot.
Somebody like that can write good.
Dumps. They call them dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like Dick? Yes. What? He can do things with his tongue you wouldn't believe. Purge the anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism. What you doing? Here I am like an idiot.
The past wasn't that long ago. We had a vaccine.
Here I am like an idiot. They don't like the gas.